because I'm like, okay, how do you say you love somebody that you hurt? And then you send me a text saying you're not coming back. Like,
Okay, and how long were you guys married?
we were married 14 years.
And he sent you a text.
Yes.
A text and said that the marriage was over.
Yes. And it wasn't like a text saying, hey, how are you? It was just like, you, Tyler, and Ari have seen the last.
For coming.
You're welcome.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and where are you from?
I am from Memphis, Tennessee, and I am a mother of two, son Tyler, 25, and daughter Micaiah, 21.
Where are you from? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up at Chelsea and Watkins, so that's considered North Memphis.
How was your childhood? What was that like for you?
It was pretty moderate. We had our ups and downs, but through it all, we were able to kind of taper things together and also to come together as a whole. So I had a few, down moments, but I also had a few up moments, but my down moments basically outweighed everything.
So you would say you had a pretty normal
Yes.
upbringing?
Yes.
Mother, father in the home?
Yes. Both parents.
Right.
Yes.
So I remember you saying that there was some issues with your mother. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that made you feel growing up?
Well, my mother, she was a hardworking parent, but we weren't close. And as a young lady growing up, I needed my mother there for me. So a lot of aspects in time to whereas, when I went through the issues with, learning how to cross your legs or just the basic things as a young lady should have, I didn't have that. So I would just lash out to her because I needed that comforting in myself, as far as being able to sustain myself through my daily aspirations in life. But, it never did come across, as successful. So, it was just really hard. But I always made a point to take the negative and turn it into a positive. And as a child, I always made it up in my mind that when I had a family, I wanted to be the best mother that I could be. And everything that I lacked, I wanted to supersede the expectations to my own children.
Awesome. Now, your father was also in the home. So can you talk to us about your relationship with him?
Oh, yes. He was awesome. We did have moments to whereas, a lot of things that he stated to me, were kind of, negative. And it did kind of affect me as a child as well. And some of those negativity things were, you're not going to be anything when you grow up.
Your father was saying that?
Yeah, you're not going to, supersede anything. And as far as doing hair, because I love to style hair, I just love like glamorous things growing up, as well as math and science. So a lot of things that he didn't see, me having as aspirations as far as his life, it kind of turned for the worse. So in other words, he wanted me to live through him versus me living through myself. So that's where we almost clash all the time for some apparent reason.
So when you say living through him, what do you think that meant?
Like a lot of times when I had homework, just say I had it in math and science and social studies, I would have to bring all of my books home from every other subject and I always study up, and it was like nothing was ever too good, although I've superseded with an A, and that made me feel some type of way because I didn't understand if you're trying your best, then you should feel comfortable, with what I'm doing because I'm like, okay, I'm doing my best. I can't give you more than my best, but it was never enough. And so those aspects of life, when I used to hear those negative things, that made an impact on me. A lot of times I used to steal away as far as going into my room or in the restroom and cry. and do little things. And that's how I learned how to do hair, because I used to style my doll's hair, with the hairspray and everything. And just a lot of things, that I used to just turn my pain into, positivity. Right. So that's what kept my mind, because I know that through everything that I have encountered, I'm a living testimony. And I definitely do not look like what I've gone through. You know what I'm saying? Because it's been rough. It really has been rough. And it's so hard when it seems like you don't have anybody that understand you.
So talk to me a little bit about that, because you and I we've been familiar with each other for a few years.
Yes.
And so I know that you are what people would consider an introvert.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because does that make you feel isolated in some type of way?
Yes, it does, because at times I feel like I don't connect. And it's not because I don't want to, but it's just my mental stability. I feel like I can get along with anybody, but it's just a situation to where as God has me, to whereas I can only connect with kindred spirits. And what I mean by that is you've gone through some of the same things and you're living your life, some of the same ways, but you still believe in God, through it all. So, yeah.
Okay. So talk to us. I know that you had a situation in your marriage.
Yes.
And you experienced some things. So talk to me a little bit about your relationship with is he your ex-husband?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about how you met him and how that relationship went forward.
Well, I actually met him at a young age, teenager, at fast food restaurant. And my girlfriend and I were working together, and he actually came in to fill out an application. So he eventually got hired, and we all just became close-knit. And so we started, talking to each other. And when I would go to the sink to cleanse my hands before, preparing the food for the clients, he would come to the sink and wash his hands with me, as a sign of flirtation. And I thought it was cute. And then he was handsome, and you think about, okay, the dream, tall, dark, bald, built.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I like this, and he had a certain slickness about him, but the slickness was like in a cool, calm,
like a swag,
smooth. Yeah. So that's what attracted me to him. But little did I know,
So we're gonna get into the little do we know, right? Okay, so eventually you guys dated. You dated for a while though, right?
Yeah,
like through high school, through college.
Yes.
And there were no red flags?
Yes, there were. Yes, there were. But there were a lot of red flags. But me liking him and growing to love him, I excluded the red flags. So that's one thing that molded me into being who I am today, to not exclude what you see, because when people show you who they are, I've learned to believe that, and that was so hard, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, okay.
So were you expecting for the red flags to disappear?
Yes.
That's as women, we expect for them to just go away.
Right. I was. I wanted them to, because I cared. And I feel like when I care about someone, my issue is I always look at the best part of them, although the worst part is worse. And I have learned through trial and error to be like, okay, listen here. I know this is a good person, that's portraying to be this good person, but look, you're seeing these red flags. I'm showing you, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, I don't understand this, God, because my issue is being too loving and too giving. And one thing that my son actually pointed out to me was, hey, Mom, you can be loving, you can be giving, you can be all these kind things to the wrong person. Yeah. And I was like, okay, wow. And I had to sit back, and think about that. Because
you expect for it to come back.
Exactly. He said, don't stop being you, but you can't be that to the wrong person. And so I'm like, I never thought about that. they taught me, my children taught me some things. And I'm like, okay, here's my 25-year-old son preaching to me as his mom. He said, because I know how you are.
So why do you think you never learned that lesson before? Would you say it's because you only see what you want to see?
Exactly. I do. And that is a strategic habit of mine, seeing what I want to see, because I always try to see the best in people, although I'm shown the worst.
Where do you think that stems from?
My dad.
And what makes you think that?
Because no matter how someone treats my dad, whether it's good or bad, he's always just the kindness and always bending over backwards. He's always been the type to whereas if you need $1, he's going to give you that $1 and borrow $1 from someone else. And I'm like, okay. And I have a strong habit of that. And that's one thing that I've been praying about. Oh my God, cry. Is, to work on that.
Now you lost your father.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about how that affected you.
It affected me greatly because I wanted him and
To see
I think about
sitting
it,
here.
and it hurts. It hurts me. It hurts me so bad. I can't even explain it. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe, And I have to take time out. I'm like, God, I trust you, but I don't understand because, he's done so much for me, Even with me being an adult, he's never missed anything. He'll call and say, okay, it's Valentine's Day. I got your gift. Daughter, I got your gift. My son, I got your gift. So to see him lying in that bed, and I'm like, he was so sick, and I never saw him cry in all the years that he was sick. So to know how strong he was in spite of being hurt, that gives me strength every day to, keep going on no matter how I feel and no matter how people treat me.
So do you feel like you ever earned the love of your father?
Yes, I do. I do. Yeah.
Did you feel like you had to earn that, or do you feel like it was given?
I believe both. And the reason why I say that is when I was growing up, I did feel unloved through the negativity. But as he saw me grow as an adult and as a parent, he became stronger to me, and he began to compliment me and say, things like, you could be the best that you could be. You've grown up to be so strong. And I didn't hear that growing up. I always, felt like, I was kind of like the black sheep. You're nothing, because this is coming in my ear. You're nothing. You'll never be nothing. Anything that I do, it was always a dead end. And then I'm on the other hand teaching my children, no matter what you're going to be in this life, I will support you. So it was kind of like a pro and a con through it all.
So talk to me about how that showed up in your marriage.
That showed up in my marriage as far as the kindness aspect with my dad.
As far as seeing what you want to see.
Now, seeing what I want to see, in that part, I prayed and I asked God, for deliverance on those things. But at the same time, although I was receiving negativity and all of the pain and suffering, I blotted that out. And I blotted that out through love in my heart.
So what were some of the things your husband was showing you that you turned a blind eye to?
Dishonesty, the cheating, the mental and physical abuse.
I remember you saying that throughout your entire marriage, you felt as if your husband was never there.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
And the reason why I say that is because I was always doing things for myself as well as the children and him. So he was present sometimes, but his soul was never there. From, taking the children to school and making sure they had their homework done and, cooking the meals and writing the sermons and, being a shoulder to cry on. And I was so exhausted in taking care of everybody else that it was weighing heavy on me. And it was almost kind of like I was building and building and building, like I could explode at any time. But what I felt that gave me sustainability was praying and asking God to help me and listening to sermons and going to church and trying to surround myself with positive people that could be a strong aspect in my life.
Now, there were several infidelities,
Yes.
correct? So kind of walk us through that.
Well, actually, when we were moving, because I did receive a message and he stated that he wasn't coming back anymore. And I had seen him for the last time, myself as well as, our two children. And so that in itself kind of like just put me in a total different mind aspect, because I'm like, okay, how do you say you love somebody that you hurt? And then you send me a text saying you're not coming back. Like, it's almost kind of like you're driving on the road and someone say, okay, go ahead and get out my car. And you're in the middle of nowhere. You don't have any communication, nothing. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go.
Okay, and how long were you guys married?
We were married 14 years.
And he sent you a text.
Yes.
A text and
text.
said that the marriage was over.
Yes. And it wasn't like a text saying, hey, how are you? It was just like, you, Tyler, and Ari have seen the last of me. I won't be back anymore. And I never will forget that day because I was at the post office checking his mail. And I just bust out in tears so that, I had to walk out. I was crying so hard, I barely even thought to get to the car. I never will forget that day.
So after 14 years of marriage, you were saying that he was present, but then not present.
Yes.
He went into the military, because I remember us speaking about that. Didn't tell you he was going into the military.
No.
But just left.
Just left. But the thing of it is, before that, he had come in clean shaved, bald. He said, I'm leaving. And we're like, okay. And he said, I'm going into the military. I'm leaving, I'll be back soon. I'm like, and it was it. He just left the room. And us three, my daughter, son, and I, we're looking like, you ain't got to be kidding me. You come in here, you say you're leaving. You already come in here different and through all of this turmoil. But you come in here different and then you say you're going to be leaving. I mean, you were never there and now you're really not going to be here. There was a lot for us to take in. And the thing that really bothered me is, like, I got tired. I got so frustrated because I'm like, I am literally tired of doing it. I'm married, but I'm single. That's a very hard thing to take every day. And I still had to smile, although I was hurting. I'm going to the children's school and going to their programs and listening to the beautiful accolades that they're receiving. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm hurting on the inside. But I didn't have anybody to cry to.
So he never showed up.
Never showed up.
So would it be safe to say that you just turned a blind eye?
Yes.
A lot.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
pretty much let him do
what it is he wanted to do.
Why?
Because I'm always blotting out the worst in people and always seeing the best, although I'm showing, how they really are. And that's one thing that, I feel that's my downfall that I had to work on within. When someone show you who they are, especially when it's negative, you have to get away from it. And I just literally learned that as an adult.
So when he went to the military, how long was he gone?
He was gone several months.
And then he came back, and then what?
When he had come back, we didn't receive notification that he came back. He just popped up. And it was really awkward.
How?
It was very awkward because he left on a negative note, and then he came back on an even more negative note. So it was kind of like we had begun to start our lives. We were happy. We weren't stressed. You know, all three of us, we just had a whole new aspect on things. It was a sense of relief. It was a sense of comfort because we didn't have to deal with any stress. We didn't have to deal with any strain. We didn't have to deal with any fussing and arguing. Everything could be good.
So
That's
why
the
did
thing.
you leave then?
Love. And I feel being crazy. I hate to say that, but yeah.
You know,
Because I
sometimes
love
we just have to be honest.
I loved him just that much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but you're hurting me, but I still love you. And I beat myself up so many times because I felt like I wasn't a role model to my son and daughter. And they seeing this stuff, you know, and my son, even now today, you know, said, Mom, I know it took you a long time, but you made it, my daughter. She said, you can't ever go back to anybody that treats you like this. I don't care if he is, Dad. And so seeing this stuff and hearing this stuff from them, it still bothers me today because I think about a whole lot. And sometimes I think so much to where I can't eat and I can't sleep. And it was hard forgiving myself because I'm like, this man right here, he's much, you know, I did everything. The only thing he did was brought in the money. I helped do that too, but I was mad. And the woman, and the mother, and the husband, and the wife, that's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. And then I had to deal with the negativity of other people coming in and say, okay, she's stupid, she's crazy, you know, she's not gonna be anything. Look at her over there. You know what I'm saying? You know, with this man like this. And then the other people saying, go ahead and stay as long as he's giving you money. And it wasn't even about the money because when I left, I didn't want anything. I didn't even ask for anything in a divorce because it wasn't about the money. It was about my peace of mind, my strength, and what I needed. I needed that closure for myself because I've been doing it for too long and I got tired of suffering. I didn't want to suffer anymore. And I just knew it just came a point in time to where I had to let it go at any cost. And so that's why we had begun to live in the car and, you know, do various things.
Okay, so let's take it in. So when he left,
Yes, he did. No income whatsoever.